So we have the honor today to start with Antonella Sansone, who will talk about the central role of mindful parenting in child's emotion regulation and human flourishing, a blueprint perspective. Dr. Antonella Sansone is a PhD. She's a mother, integrative clinical and health psychologist, researcher, educator, mindfulness facilitator, developmental message teacher, author, and artist. She is an international speaker, pioneer, paradigm shifter, and advocate in the field of early parenting from before conception to infancy, prenatal, and perinatal health, mindfulness, and promoter of mother-infant relationship prior and post-birth. Welcome to you, Doctor.
Thank you. Well, that it was so wonderful to start with these images of human flourishing and the meditation, which is also one of my focuses of research. So I'm starting sharing. Thank you for inviting me, Prenatal Alliance. I'm delighted to be here. Okay, so before I started the actual presentation, I'd like to take you very quickly, because of the limited time, back in time where we used to co-regulate and regulate in a very flowing manner as a matter of default in a relatively stress-free environment. And I'm inviting you to look at the flow, at the posture, and the children's capacity to self-regulate and co-regulate continuously. Okay? I'll do very quickly. The community, and despite us being strangers, this is an experience I had with my family and an African indigenous tribe called the Himba. I lived for a period with them, and the most striking things actually was to see these children all calm. We never witnessed a tantrum or major crying because of the carer's capacity to pick up body cues immediately and responding. Dancing, co-regulating around the holy fires, playing in a very harmonious way. As I said, despite the cultural barriers with, my children, the language barriers, they still played. And you have this sense of flow. Children sleeping, no concern. I talk with the women, if any child died because of sleeping on their belly, they couldn't understand what I meant. All this anxiety that in our world we have. Yeah, this is, is a very, very primal dance that they use to co-regulate, but also to deal with stress, with illness, and to celebrate the conception of a child. So they simulated a dance, because before conceiving, they connect with the soul of the child. So they go into the forest, they sing a song to connect, to call the soul of the child. And when they hear the soul of the child, they go into the hut and they conceive, they welcome the child into the body. So the first connection happened before conceiving the child physiologically. So they consider the conception on a mental level, spiritual level first. And all these beliefs have a co-regulatory function, which means they maintain the nervous system in an optimal state. So they are already prepared to keep co-regulating and keeping the balance and the communication with the child. And then after birth, they have all their nurturing practice in place to continue this communication. Okay, co-regulation. You can see, and among animals, other mammals, it's a universal force, which is a foundation of child development and health and human flourishing. A child could never self-regulate without going through all these co-regulatory mechanisms. So what is emotional regulation? What does it matter? We hear about it always briefly, superficially, but actually, and you know, Stephen Porges with his polyvagal theory explain it very well, that is a biological necessity. Without co-regulation, there would be no life. A child wouldn't survive. So, and it happens with the engagement of the nervous system. It requires a certain parental capacities of connection and of attunement and synchrony and calm, having a calm nervous system. So it is not a theoretical skill that we can learn at school or in an early life. That's why these indigenous children were so co-regulated, so polite, with a strong sense of boundaries. Although, you know, despite them not going to school. So where do they learn these skills? They learn these skills through these emotional transactions with the caregivers, continuous, and these engagement and support from the community, these multiple attachments. So it develops in very early life, is a relational process supported by the community and mindful healthcare providers in our society, and leads to moral virtue development, human flourishing, and a cohesive society through psychoneurological regulation, which leads to social flourishing and peace, cohesion, and harmony. Plays a central role in human development, physical, emotional, cognitive, spiritual, and social. So emotions are not enemies to rationality or cooperative social relationships, as has been believed for centuries, but actually are essential, and they come in terms of development, they come far before the development of rationality or cooperative, social relationship. So it is a universal evolutionary force, and I like seeing it rooted in prenatal life. If you think about cells and the embryo, how they cooperate with other cells and system of the mother's body, it is really a work of cooperation, continuous cooperation, and which requires an optimal environment, is an exchange of energy flow with the mother's body and psyche. And when the mother is stressed, particularly stressed, I'm not talking about healthy stress, because that is also important in life, but is particularly dealing with abuse or trauma, these flow, this intrinsic self-organizing and self-preserving force energy of the embryo, which manifests very early in life, can be undermined. And we have, this Jaap van der Waal talks about embryo in us. My colleague Sheriona Mensah-Seals talks about original potential, or Stephanie Mines about original brilliance. I see the roots of human flourishing in these very, very early processes of co-regulation. So co-regulation prepare for the outside world, and this is something you never heard about. You think, you hear that the co-regulation starts after birth through the interactions between the caregiver and the baby. So this organizing expansive force when overcomes incredible developmental challenges. So we are very early life. We have an amazing capacity for resilience and transformation. If you see that from the embryo, how from the cells, the embryos, we transform into a complex human being, is really amazing, a mystery of life. And the origins of emotional regulation is in this affect synchrony that start very early on and even before conception, because as I said, indigenous women connect even before, and they use dances, ceremonies to facilitate this co-regulation. So the caregivers attune responses to the baby's body cues and gesture, which already express emotions and needs, but the baby cannot verbalize that. The shapes the baby's ability to cope with the challenging emotions. It is the repeated reciprocal experiences of these transactional, emotional transactions that teach the baby empathy, compassion, safety, a sense of trust in the world and in relationship, which in turn support emotional regulation. So it's like a circle. So the mother, through this attunement, support the baby's capacity for empathy, compassion, and trust, and this capacity support in the future emotional regulation and social engagement system. And so we need, in this perspective, we need to acknowledge the power of the mammalian caregiving cooperative nature in co-regulating and regulating. So this continuous exchange. Abuse and neglect disrupts affect synchrony and may hinder the path towards the development of self-regulation, trust, empathy, and flourishing. So during these exchanges, there is an engagement, an involvement of the right brain, and particularly through right brain to right brain communication, which is predominant in early life. So the right brain, which we know it's responsible for our capacity for our creative, imaginative ability, self-regulatory, for emotions and nurture, looks at the wholes, capacity to process data very quickly, so to understand very quickly, synthesizing, and is subjective, while the left brain, which developed later, is more looks at parts, analytical, slow speed data processing, language processing. So of course it's clear that the right brain is the first to develop because of the importance of emotions and the importance of these co-regulatory processes. So it's really like a dance of emotional transactions which occur through face-to-face interactions, mother and baby engage in non-conscious facial, vocal, and gestural communication and synchronize their affective behavior. That's why the prenatal development life is extremely important, because all these synchronization, non-verbal synchronization occur during pregnancy. And during this emotional transaction, there is much more going on. The baby receives social and cognitive information about the world, about his capacity to experience intimate relationships with the safety. It's shaped very early on through these intimate interactions the baby has with the caregiver. So by responding to the baby's nonverbal cues, the empathic attuning mother regulates her psychobiological states, the child's psychobiological states, and communicates these states back to the baby. So it's really a dance of coordination of engagement, disengagement, and re-engagement. So that's why there is no such a thing as a perfect parenting. Disengagement is it's natural. Actually, the baby learns from disengagement even more than from engagement. Is the way the mother repair, and engages the child again after a moment of disengagement. For instance, if the baby cries or gets irritated, and the mother calms and teaches the baby that it's fine. It teaches the baby that to deal with the challenging emotions. While when this communication doesn't occur, the baby, for instance, when a baby is left to cry in a room with these sleep trainings are on trend now, the baby falls asleep and the mother thinks that the baby is fine. Oh, the baby is learning to sleep, but actually the baby is learning to repress their feelings. All this information is stored in the right brain and in the body memory. So the baby learns to shut down, learns that feelings don't matter because no one responds. So there is really a lot going on in these little, these interactions that look, as small things to us, but actually there is really a lot going on in terms of development for the capacity to feel empathy, compassion, cooperation, mutual understanding, mutual respect, listening, trust, and moral development. So moral development is not a theoretical teaching. It's not something you can learn later in life. It occurs in this early life, you can, but it happens through a body engagement. So it's a biological survival necessity. Stephen Porges, highlights clearly that, and another system that is engaged in these co-regulatory processes is the vagal tone, the functioning of the vagal tone, which in turn support emotional regulation and pro-social ability. And there is abundant evidence supporting this. Children with higher vagal tone have been found to be more cooperative and more empathic. Higher vagal tone was linked with compassion and open-heartedness towards others, and from different backgrounds. So imagine in terms of acceptance of diversity and harmony among, nations, which actually is happening the opposite. There is so much division nowadays. How important is to educate children to compassion and open-heartedness and the tolerance to diversity in this early life, from prenatal life. So in history of chronic misattunement without repair can really create problems in terms of capacity to manage challenging emotions later in life. So this is what happened, there is when the vagal tone is high and optimal, there is a regulation of multiple biological systems between mother and child. So it's also the child regulating the mother. So it's really a co-regulation process. So when the predictable emotional transactions do not occur when, for instance, parents have a low emotional awareness. So this is why prenatal and perinatal education is highly important. When high levels of stress, depression, anxiety, or psychiatric condition, or unresolved trauma. So the result is parents' difficulties in emotion regulation. So which correspond to child difficulties in regulating emotions with developmental consequences, for instance, when the baby is left to cry. And the increase of ADHD can be related also to the parents' stress, which hinders emotional synchrony and co-regulation. So the child develops adaptive responses that can work at that time, but they are non-adaptive later on. So multiple attachment. So what actually we have lost, which is a powerful source of regulation, is the village, the support from the village. It takes a village to raise a child, but also takes a village to uplift the mother. So when you see this indigenous community, it's hard even to understand who the mother is, because child care is shared. It's called alloparenting. So the mother can never get stressed because, first of all, living in community, it's easy to pick up the stress. If someone is ill, if the mother is stressed, it's very easy to pick up. These people are extremely skilled in picking up body language. We had a translator, but actually we understood each other before the translator interpreted, did the translation, because just the human connection, and they know that I was there because interested in their culture, in motherhood. So mother evolved to receive empathic support. So this is the importance of receiving support, which is lacking very often in our society, and that's why isolation and depression and stress, etc. So the community is a powerful source of co-regulation for both mother and baby. And mothers have been, for thousands of years, skilled at tuning into the internal states of the baby. and so co-regulate emotionally. We have evolved, but what is happening now, it's only not even 1% of the history of humanity. For 99.9% of the history of humanity, we've been co-regulated pretty well. So, there are many ways to co-regulate in the community, nature, co-sleeping, belief, spirituality, religion. So all these practices that they do before conception, they're all co-regulated. They only maintain, that's why there are fertility problems don't exist. So breastfeeding is another powerful co-regulator. So ceremony, dances, ritual, gathering around the fire, storytelling. So, the children are exposed. I'm not going through the details, but I would like for those who will have the recording to look more carefully in the detail, but storytelling, the village, the communities, you can say the cooperation. I use always the indigenous because it's a small scale society. So it's very easy to see how we have evolved and why things are going, wrong and why this is happening. We are losing the connection, the meaningful relationships and the village, the support from the community. So the biology of belief, so the effect of belief, the physiological benefit. And what is striking, is amazing, is that indigenous people are aware of these influences. We discover with science, we need science to give evidence to what actually these people have known for thousands and thousands of years. So it's in our DNA, it's ingrained, it's in our system. We only need a supportive community, supportive healthcare professional who become aware of this, where we come from, not just science. We need an integration of science and wisdom, because it's all in our evolutionary DNA, and with consciousness and the rediscovery, we can really impact on these epigenetics processes, and so by resolving traumas and addressing mental health issues very, very early. So why maternal mental health and support?
Dear Dr. Sansone, we have a bit of a pass over time.
Oh, yes.
Would you be
Okay.
to conclude
Yes,
so we could have a few questions?
Right. Yes, thank you for telling me. It doesn't matter, because the fact that there will be a recording and people can just look at the slides. Anyway, I already mentioned why maternal mental health and support matter in pregnancy, because there is abundant evidence about the effect of maternal mental health on child development and on this co-regulatory mechanism. So I developed this perspective, and I published an article with Frontiers of Psychology on the blueprint of emotional co-regulation starting in pregnancy. And you can read my article, which is quite interesting, innovative, and introduce this information to developmental psychology, which still now is very unaware of the powerful, period, how important. So mindfulness, how mindfulness, compassion, support can help parents co-regulate and facilitate these co-regulatory mechanisms and human flourishing. And then I provide all the evidence of the benefits of mindfulness on mental health, depression, stress, anxiety, and there is really a lot of evidence. So how, in particular, reduce reactivity to baby stress. So the mother, after a mindfulness training with a focus on the unborn baby as a conscious being, how children are, the mother is less reactive to baby stress. So instead of increasing her arousal, she can calm down and therefore calm, because very often happen if the mother is stressed, that's a response to the baby stress with stress, which is counterproductive. So overlapping on mindfulness, secure attachment. So they both foster the same abilities at nervous system level, brain level. So the same areas are involved. So the same abilities fostered by mindfulness are the abilities required to develop secure attachment. This is fascinating, it's very interesting. And therefore, I developed a program which is called the Prenatal Mindfulness Relationship-Based Program that tackles all these gaps in literature and addresses the mother-baby relationship during pregnancy, even before conception, mental health, and this co-regulatory mechanism through music, touching. There are particularly exercises that would require a separate presentation. So in short, we need compassion and mindfulness and heart quality. We need the science, but to implement the scientific findings, we don't need intellectualism. It's not about teaching English, teaching history. It's about embodying these qualities coherently. So we need embodied presence so that we can mirror, mothers, parents can mirror these qualities through the healthcare practitioner, through the community. So it's a common mindfulness training and awareness of the unborn baby as a sentient being capable to establish already this kind of communication very early on, and this reciprocal engagement made of co-regulation, because the baby also regulates the mother. So leading with compassion in a divided world. Unfortunately, the world becomes more disintegrated, more aggressive, more isolated. So we really need a compassion, mindfulness-based leadership, and to foster individual human flourishing, but also society and flourishing planet. We co-regulate with the planet in many different ways, you know, the moon, etc. So my publication, thank you for listening. Sorry for taking time, but it's always, you know.
Thank you so much, Doctor. It was an amazing.
For any question, you can just email me, and it's all there in the slide. So I hope, you know, that people will benefit from what is there. Thank you.